everyone, welcome to my channel and welcome back to the 12 days of mini Christmas amigurumi. I'm Lauren from A Menagerie of Stitches. Today is day 3 of the 12 days of mini Christmas amigurumi. I hope you've enjoyed days 1 and 2 and are ready to add another mini to your collection. If you're new here and are wondering what are the 12 days of mini Christmas amigurumi, here's what it is. Each day leading up to Christmas, I'll be sharing a new tutorial for a mini amigurumi. They're small projects that you can make in just a couple of hours, so they're a great project to work on while watching a cozy movie. So far for day 1, we've made a hot cocoa, and for day 2, we made a snow globe. If you want to go back and watch any of these videos, I'll leave the links in the description for them below. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a day. If you prefer an ad-free PDF version of these patterns, you can purchase the downloadable PDF on my website, amenagerieofstitches.com. Let's go over the materials for today's project. For day 3, I'll be using both Hobbii Rainbow Cotton 8/4 and Friends Cotton 8/4. While these are technically different yarns, they are the same weight, which is a weight 1 or super fine. I find that they are identical, which is why I use them both within the same pattern. For Rainbow Cotton, we're going to need blue, which is color number 31, vanilla, which is color number 52, and for the Friends Cotton, we'll be using mustard, which is color number 28, and nougat, color number 9. These are small enough projects that you only need 1 skein of each color. This is also a great stash busting project, so feel free to use whatever you already have on hand. You'll also need a size B 2.25mm crochet hook, a pair of scissors, a yarn needle, 3 stitch markers, black embroidery floss and a needle, a pair of 6mm safety eyes, a piece of thin cardboard like a cereal box, fiber fill, and you'll also need a hot glue gun, which I have off to the side heating up. You can also find the full material list in the description below. All right, let's reveal day 3. It's a mini drum and even has little drumsticks. For this project, you'll need to know how to make a magic ring, how to single crochet, invisible decrease, and chain. You'll need to know how to work in the back loops and front loops only. You'll also need to know how to work in the back bumps of a chain piece. Video tutorials for how to do these techniques can also be found in the description below. Let's get started. We're going to start by making the top of the drum with the color vanilla. To begin, we're going to start with round 1, which says to make 6 single crochet in a magic ring. So I'm just going to make my magic ring and place 6 single crochet inside. And then close the circle. Now let's move on to round 2. Round 2 says to increase in each stitch around for 12 stitches. So that just means I'll place 2 single crochets in each of these 6 stitches for a total of 12. So 1, 2, and then I'll move on to the next stitch and place 2. All right, and there are our 12. I'm just going to tighten my tail a little bit more to close that hole. I'm also going to place my stitch marker in that last stitch to hold my place. Now let's move on to round 3. Round 3 says to single crochet 1, increase 6 times for 18 stitches. So that just means I'll place 1 single crochet into the first stitch, and in the next stitch, I'm going to make an increase. So I'll place 2 single crochets together. So 1, 2. Now let's repeat that. Single crochet 1 and then increase in the next stitch. So 1, 2. You'll repeat that all the way around until you hit your stitch marker. Oops, yarn split. All right, and that's going to be the end of round 3. Moving on to round 4, the pattern says to single crochet 1, increase, then we're going to single crochet 2, increase 5 times, then single crochet 1. So that's going to be a single crochet 1. In the next stitch, we're going to increase, so place 2 single crochets together. And now our repeat is the single crochet 2, increase. So you'll place 1 single crochet in the first stitch, another single crochet in the next stitch, then we'll make an increase. So place 2 together. Now repeat that sequence 5 times. So you'll single crochet 1, single crochet 2, then you'll increase in the next stitch. And now that you've done all 5 repeats, you're left with 1 stitch that's in your stitch marker. So let's remove the stitch marker, and then we're going to place that last single crochet. And you should have 24 stitches at the end. Moving on to round 5, the pattern says to single crochet 3, increase 6 times for a total of 30 stitches. So I'm just going to place 1 single crochet into the next 3 stitches. And in the next stitch, I'm going to place the increase with 2 single crochets. And I'll repeat that sequence all the way around until I hit the stitch marker. So 1, 2, 3, and then I'll place an increase. Now that I've reached my last stitch, I'm going to make my increase. And on the last stitch, before I yarn over to complete the stitch, I'm going to bring in the Nougat color. Yarn over with the new color and pull through to finish the stitch. And then just give it a little pull to tighten. And now we're ready to work with the new color. Moving on to round 6 of the pattern, it says in front loops only, single crochet 30. You'll also mark the first and last back loop with the 2 stitch markers. So in the front loop only of the first stitch, I'm going to insert my hook and yarn over and make a single crochet. Now at this point, I like to take the first stitch marker and place it into that back loop, just so I know that that's where it starts. Now I'm going to continue working in the front loops only. All right, and then in this last stitch, I'm going to place the second stitch marker in that back loop. So if you were to turn it around, it should look something like this. So you'll have the first back loop and then the last back loop. At this point, I'm going to cut off the vanilla yarn. Let's get this out of the way. And then I'm going to tie a knot with these 2 colors. Okay. Then go ahead and just trim these down. And this is what it should look like at the end of round 6. So you have the top of your drum starting. All right, now let's move on to round 7. I forgot to mention that you will need this 3rd stitch marker just to mark the last stitch that you're working in, since these 2 are just holding a place marker. Now let's move on to round 7. The pattern says to single crochet 30. So I'm just going to single crochet 30 all the way around, placing 1 single crochet into each stitch. And that's going to be the end of round 7. Now let's move on to round 8. Round 8 says in both loops of the stitch, so that's going to be the stitches from round 7, and then in the back loops left over from round 6, which would be these loops back here, we're going to single crochet 30. So to do that, you're going to insert your hook into the stitches from round 7. Then where this blue stitch marker is, that's the first back loop. I'm going to remove this stitch marker. Then I'm going to place my hook under that loop. So let me do that again for you. Go into the stitches from round 7, then you'll go into the back for the first back loop of round 6. Now yarn over and pull through that back loop and the 2 stitches right there, the V, and you should have 2 loops on your hook. Then yarn over and complete the single crochet. Let's do that again. Insert your hook underneath the stitch from round 7, and then we're going to pick up the back loop from round 6. Yarn over and pull through all of those with 2 loops remaining on your hook. Yarn over and pull through. So let's continue that all the way around. And as you can see, working in those back loops and the stitches from round 7, it starts to create the rim of the drum. Now that I've reached the end, I'm going to remove my 2 stitch markers, but before that, I'm going to insert my hook into that last stitch, then remove the 2nd stitch marker, insert my hook into that last back loop, yarn over and pull through. Now before I complete the stitch, it's time to change to the blue yarn. So I'm going to hold off on the Nougat, bring in the blue, lay it over my hook, pull through to complete the stitch. And that is going to be the color change, and that's the end of the Nougat. So I will cut this off. And then after I do this next round, I will tie a knot for those 2 to secure them. Moving on to rounds 9 through 13, the pattern says to single crochet 30. So that means for each of those rounds, I'm just going to single crochet in each stitch around from 9 to 13. So just 1, 2, I will single crochet all the way around. All right, and that's going to be the end of round 9. I'm going to place my stitch marker into that last stitch, and now I'm going to secure that color change. Just tie a couple of knots. And then you can go ahead and trim these tails. I'm also going to trim that vanilla tail just so that way it's not as long. And that's the beginning of our drum, the side of it. Now I'm going to repeat rounds 10 through 13, doing exactly what we did for round 9, and I'll meet you back here once I'm done. Now that I'm almost done completing round 13, we will have to change the color for the next round. So I'm going to do that now. In this last stitch, I'm going to make my final single crochet, and instead of finishing it with the blue, I'm going to bring in the Nougat and yarn over to complete the stitch. Then I'm going to place my stitch marker in that last blue stitch just to hold my place. Now it's time to add the safety eyes. We're going to add them between rounds 11 and 12, placing them 4 stitches apart. So we know that this top round of blue is round 9, so we can go 9, 10, 11, 12. And then I'm just going to insert my crochet hook to widen out the stitches so that it's easier for me to get the safety eyes in place. Now counting over, we're going to skip 4 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, and in the 5th stitch, we'll just insert the crochet hook again, and then we'll place our safety eye. All right, now I'm going to hold off on placing the backings until I have finished making the smile. Now I'm going to add the mouth. If you need a brush up on how to add this, I have a video linked down below showing how to do it. All right, now I'm going to add the backs of the safety eyes. And if you want to, you can use a lighter to melt the back of the posts. I also have a video on how to do that, and I'll link it down below. All right, so that's what you should have right now. To make the top and the bottom of the drum more flat, we're going to use a piece of thin cardboard and add it to the inside of the drum. But we're going to hold off on adding it until we've finished the second rim, but I just wanted to show you that we will be cutting out 2 pieces of cardboard for the top and bottom of the drum. Now let's continue with making the drum. Moving on to round 14, the pattern says, in front loops only, single crochet 30. Mark the first and last back loop with 2 stitch markers. So just like we did for round 6, I'm going to single crochet in the front loop only of the next stitch, and then I'm going to pause, and I'm going to place the first stitch marker into that first back loop. Then I'm going to continue single crocheting around in the front loops only. At the end, I will fasten off this blue yarn. I'm just keeping it there so that it doesn't unravel. So you'll just single crochet in each stitch around until you hit the stitch marker. All right, now that I've reached the last stitch, I'm going to remove the stitch marker, and then I'm going to insert my hook into the front loop, make that single crochet. Then I'm going to take my second stitch marker and place it into that last back loop. And this is what it should look like after you've marked the first and last back loops. Now I'm going to fasten off this blue yarn, and then I'm going to tie a knot with these two colors just to secure that color change. All right, and then just trim the yarn. And that is what it should look like after you've completed round 14. Moving on to round 15 of the pattern, it says single crochet 30. So that just means we're going to single crochet 1 in each of the 30 stitches. And that's going to be the end of round 15. Now let's move on to round 16. Round 16 is going to be what creates our second rim of the drum. So round 16 says, in both loops of the stitch, which is the stitches from round 15, as well as the back loops left over from round 14, which are the blue ones in the back that we have on hold, we're going to single crochet 30. So to do that, we're going to insert underneath the stitches from round 15, and then we're going to go inside where that first stitch marker is, so the blue one, and we're going to remove that stitch marker, so we can see it a little bit better. And you're going to insert your hook underneath that back loop. So let me do that again. You'll insert into both loops of the stitch from round 15 and then into the back loop that was left on hold. Now we're going to single crochet, so yarn over and pull through until you have 2 loops on your hook, yarn over to complete the single crochet. So let's do that again. Insert your hook into the stitch from round 15, then go to the back loops from round 14 and pick up that next stitch, yarn over and pull through, yarn over and make your single crochet. So we'll just do that all the way around for every back loop and every stitch. Now that I've reached the last stitch, I've already removed the stitch marker from the stitch. I'm going to remove the stitch marker from the back loop, and then I'm going to complete that next stitch, pull up a loop, and now we have to change colors for the next round. So I'm going to do that now. Instead of completing the stitch right here, I'm going to yarn over with vanilla, so the same color as the top of our drum. So yarn over, pull it through, and that's going to complete my stitch. Now I'm just going to place my stitch marker in that last stitch, and now it's going to be time to fasten off the nougat. So I'm going to trim that and get it out of the way. And now I'm going to tie a knot to secure that color change. And then just trim those two. Now it's going to be time to add our cardboard piece. So I'm going to add the top one. And you're just going to want to make sure that it's pressed all the way in so that the top of the drum is going to be flat. Now we're going to add fiberfill. And when adding fiberfill, I like to just roll it into a ball first and then insert it into the item. Make sure you get around the safety eyes so that way you can get up into the other rim of the drum. Don't want to lose that. Now at this point you are going to want to add as much as you can, just because our next piece of cardboard is going to sandwich this in and you won't be able to add any more. All right, so let's continue on with round 17. Round 17 of the pattern says to single crochet 3, invisible decrease 6 times for a total of 24 stitches. So that just means I'm going to single crochet into the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, then I'm going to make an invisible decrease, and I'm going to repeat that all the way around. So single crochet 1, 2, 3, and then make a decrease. So now if you need to, you can add any bit of extra fiber fill. I'm just going to add a little bit. Just kind of smash that in there. Now with the second piece of cardboard, we're just going to insert it underneath those stitches. And you might just have to pull. I also like to use my crochet hook to just kind of get the stitches around that piece of cardboard. And then if there's any fiber fill sticking out, you can just use your crochet hook to slide it underneath. So it should look like that once you've finished. Now we're going to continue crocheting to complete the drum. Moving on to round 18, the pattern says to single crochet 2, invisible decrease 6 times for a total of 18 stitches. So I'll single crochet 2, 1, 2, and then I'm going to make an invisible decrease. Single crochet 1, 2, and then make an invisible decrease. And that's going to be the end of round 18. Let's move on to round 19. Round 19 says single crochet 1, invisible decrease 6 times for a total of 12 stitches. So I'll single crochet 1, and then make an invisible decrease, and I'll do that all the way around. And that's the end of round 19. Now let's move on to round 20. Round 20 says to invisible decrease around 6 times for 6 stitches. So this is going to close our piece. So you're going to invisible decrease into the next 6 stitches. So make 1 invisible decrease, and then go to the next 2 stitches and make an invisible decrease. And just repeat that all the way around. And that's going to be our 6th invisible decrease. Now it's time to fasten this off. I'm just going to trim the tail a little bit, and then you'll just pull this all the way through. Give it a little tug. Now let's close this hole. To close the hole, I'm just going to use my yarn needle, and then I'm going to go into the front loops of those 6 stitches. So you'll go into the front loop only from the inside to the out, just like so, and then pull it through. So let's do that again. Go from the inside underneath the front loop only, and then you'll pull it out. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So you want to do it to every stitch that was left over. Then place your thumb next to the hole, and you'll just give it a little tug, and it'll close up that hole. Now insert your needle back into the center of it, and I like to come up through the blue, so you'll just have to kind of wiggle it around, and the needle will come out, and then just pull, give it a little tug to make it more flat, and then we'll secure this with a little knot. And then I like to trim a little tail, and to hide this, we're just going to use a smaller crochet hook to pull that tail inside. And that is how your drum should look once you've finished. Next, we're going to be making these mustard colored zigzag lines. With the mustard yarn, tie a knot at one end and then thread it onto your yarn needle with the other. Insert your needle into the drum and come up between where the rounds of blue and brown meet. Pull it through, and then we're just going to give it a little tug to get that knot inside. Take a smaller crochet hook and pull that mustard tail in. All right. Now we're going to start by making the zigzags. You're just going to place the yellow yarn down at an angle, insert it into the drum. Now go over about 4 stitches from where we came out before. So you'll insert it up, then pull the yarn through, and now you should have an angled line. Then we're going to go back into that same hole from this one, and then you'll go over 4 stitches or so to the next side. Pull this through, and you have your first V. Now we're going to take this yarn and put it up where that second hole was. And you'll just repeat this sequence all the way around until you have all of your zigzags. Now come down to that corner. And just keep repeating the sequence. Then at the end, you're just going to insert your needle into that last point and then bring it out through one of the stitch holes, pull it, and then we'll make a little knot. Trim the end and then use a smaller crochet hook to pull that knot inside. All right, and there are the zigzags. Now let's move on and make the drumsticks. Now it's time to make the drumsticks. We'll need to make 2 of these. Using Nougat yarn, we're going to chain 11. So just make your slip stitch, then chain 11. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Now the pattern says, then turn the chain over and working into the back bumps, single crochet across. So to do that, if you look, we will have a series of V's in the front. If you were to flip that piece over, you're going to have these bumps, and those are what we're going to work into. So you're going to single crochet into those bumps. So just insert your hook underneath, yarn over, and then make your single crochet. So let's do that again. Insert your hook into the back loop, yarn over and pull through, then yarn over and make your single crochet. After you've completed a couple of the stitches, your chain piece will start to turn, so those bumps will be a lot easier to see. And that's going to be our 10 single crochets. Now we're going to fasten off. Just trim the yarn. Let's get this out of the way. Now to fasten off, I'm just going to pull this loop all the way through. It is a little twisted. You'll just pull the loop all the way through. And now we need to weave in these ends. To do that, I'm just going to take a yarn needle. And when weaving them, there is going to be a front and back side of this drumstick. I consider the front side the side that has the tails on the left side. And if you were to flip it over, it looks a little bit differently, and that's going to be the back side. So I'm going to weave my tails into the back side so that they're a little bit less visible. So I just like to pick up a couple of these stitches, these little loops, and I just insert the yarn needle underneath them. And then just pull the yarn needle through. Then you can kind of straighten it out a little bit. And then let's do the same for this next tail. So I'm just going to insert it into the loops, and they can be the same loops that you already did the first one on. And then just pull them. All right, now I'm going to snip these 2 tails. And you'll want to make it as close as possible. Just make sure that you don't cut into the drumstick. All right, and that's going to be the back side, and when you flip it over, that's how the front side should look. Now let's make another one of those. And these are our 2 drumsticks. Now let's attach it to the drum. With hot glue, we're just going to apply a small dot to the end of the drumstick. And then I'm going to hold the drum and place the drumstick in the center. And then just press down. It will stick off, and that's totally fine. We just want this little part on the end to be secured to the drum. So then just press it. Now let's add the second drumstick. You're going to apply a little bit of glue again. And then this time we're going to cross over that first drumstick. So just like so. And if you need to, you can add a little bit more to secure it down on that first drumstick. And then just give it a little tug. All right, this is our finished drum. This one can easily be customized to whatever color you'd like. Don't forget you can add a hook or a string and turn this into an ornament. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, please like this video and leave a comment. Make sure to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss the rest of the 12 days of mini Christmas amigurumi. I'll see you all back here tomorrow for another sweet mini. Happy crocheting, friends!